Okay, so I'm going to go through the white uncommons in this Marvel set and sort of try and evaluate them, try and tell roughly how highly I'd want to pick them. Um, and I'm mostly talking about in the first pack. Obviously, in the third pack, you might be looking for very specific things, so it'll change. But generally, in the first pack, you're looking more for what's abstractly powerful. And also, I'll be trying to comment on how they might fit in the different decks, or they might be desirable or not, and those kind of things. So starting off with the first one is Supervillain Lockup slash the Seal Away. Um, I feel like this is the kind of card that it's probably like 6, 7 plus. Pick 6, 7 plus is when I want to take it. I think it's worse than the Oblivion Ring because um, it seems like in this format there's a lot of creatures with abilities, or what I would call Ophidians. I guess Seal Away would work against exactly Ophidian, but creatures that have abilities that don't have that creatures that don't have enter the battlefield effects. But when you untap with them, they start snowballing by drawing extra cards or other powerful effects. So a little bit less creature, a little bit less combat based. So I feel like this is not really the removal I'd generally be looking for when my opponent plays, a creature with a static ability. But obviously, it's a powerful card. So that's my guess, like 6, 7 plus. How it fits in a different archetype. I mean, obviously, this card's better in a controlling deck than an aggressive deck. Um, but yeah, so I don't know. Maybe if you are more controlling, I guess I don't have anything interesting to say about that. But yeah, that's why I think I'm not going to be taking it that highly um, as my first impression. The second card, though, um, and maybe I'll lose uh, a lot of people here because a lot of people might, be high on Seal Away and low on this card. I don't know actually where people are on this card, but Political Triumph. It's the one white enchantment plan that whenever you play a creature, you scry one, and when you have the fourth trigger, you get counters on all your things and draw a card. I've been pretty impressed by the card. I've played it a few times. I think it's pretty strong. I mean, one question you could always ask is if your opponent plays this on turn one, how are you going to feel? And I think it's probably going to have a pretty high opening hand win rate. Like a one mana card, usually you don't have anything to do on turn one, and then it's just going to put a counter on all your things basically for free and give you a bunch of scries. Like it's very good in your opening hand, obviously. Um, so yeah, I think it's a pretty strong card. I probably honestly might take it pretty high, like pick 2, pick 3. I think if you look through all the white decks, maybe 2 is too high, but that's just where I'm starting off with. Like definitely around pick 3, I think I'd be happy seeing this as a card that I think significantly will increase your win rate when it's in your opening hand, and it's not that bad to draw later in the game, especially if you have tokens and things going wide around it. It's not that hard to draw it on like turn 3 or turn 4 and just fit it in and have it trigger on turn 6, where you might even have more creatures in play. Um, and anyway, so yeah, I think this card's really good. And yeah, looking how it fits into different decks. I mean, green white obviously is a pretty good fit there because you have some of the green cards care about counters, and the green white uncommon, if you end up having that, it's a pretty go wide card. There's a small go wide theme in green white. Um, if you look in blue white, uh, it has creatures, I guess. I don't know. I played it in a blue white deck. I thought it's pretty strong. Obviously, and red white. I mean, it triggers prowess, I guess. I guess I can say that for everything. Um, I just think the decks have enough creatures. Like maybe black white is the lightest on creatures, but I think this effect. So maybe if you're specifically in black white, I could see it not performing as well in some decks, especially if you're more equipment based. Even though I know there's not that many equipments in the set. But anyway, I guess I would say I think this can fit in most white decks. Like obviously it'll probably be a bit stronger in white green than it is in white black. Um, but the fact that you can still play it in any deck is kind of nice. Obviously, it's not equally powerful in every deck. Then the next, so yeah, I'd probably want to take it around pick 2, pick 3. Pick 2 might be too high, but whatever. Okay, so next card, Captain Marvel. Um, it's the 5 mana, 4/4 flying vigilance, the Sarah Avenger avatar, Sarah avatar, right? And it has the ability that like when your opponent casts a spell, then you can play your spells instead of head flash. I got a bit higher on this card after playing the set a bit, just because I started pretty low on it. Some things I've realized, probably a lot of people are saying, oh, like the creatures are small in the format. I think people might be saying that because power up this like is supposed to make the creatures bigger. Like it makes sense the creatures are small because a lot of creatures say power up on them. But it has seemed like the creatures are kind of small because there are so many creatures with abilities. Ophidians is the good cards. Um, so like a 4/4 flying vigilance is probably going to actually dominate the battlefield more than it usually would, which is kind of a bizarre thing to say. Also, the fact that the removal is so taxed in this format, I think it might sound like an odd argument, but some of these slower, expensive creatures might be a little bit better because if you play strong legendary creatures early in the game, you're really going to force them to direct with that, which that argument might sound nonsense, but I guess whatever. Not going to get into that too much. Obviously, it's not like a card that just snowballs away with the game, but yeah, it can kind of dominate the battlefield. Probably where I'd want to take it, like pick 5 seems kind of late, but maybe pick 5 plus. I don't think it's a very good card. It's just a card that I thought was like bad, that now I'm like it's not actually that bad. So yeah, I think I'd lean to being like wanting to take it pick 5 plus. I guess if you talk how it fits in the different archetypes, that's another problem. It doesn't exactly fit. And the themes like in black white, I guess it's good at being an exalted creature because it has like keywords. It's a hero, but it's generally not enabling anything super powerful. It's just kind of the nature of the card. And I guess I talked about it without getting into the passive ability that much, which I guess can be interesting. But anyway, so going to the next one. The Patriot Shield Wielder. I guess what I was trying to say there is like sometimes it's like, okay, what are the kind of decks that really want this card? I don't think there's ever going to be a deck that's like, oh, I really want Captain Marvel, but it's also like not going to really be that bad in any deck either. So it's like never going to really you're never going to be like, oh, because I have these cards, I'm going to take it very highly. It's just probably not going to happen. But anyway, going to the next card is the Patriot Shield Wielder. That's the 2-mana 2/2 that you can pay 2 to pump. And it gives another creature +2/+0 and hexproof. Kind of a little bit of a weird card to evaluate because, part of the power of the card is that it's a 2-drop, but its ability doesn't really come into value later in the game. There are some cards I've noticed it has synergy with. For example, it has synergy with Loki, which is like the baby Nadu. I'm trying to see if it has synergy with Miss Maisel now. I'm pulling her up. I think she's just spells, though, not abilities. Technically, I guess it has synergy with the untapping theme. There is kind of an untapping theme in blue-white. So there's the Captain Marvel blue-white uncommon 3/4 that lets you like when things get tapped, they untap. So technically, you get 2 triggers out of this, but I don't know if it's like that powerful to untap this. It's also another. It's strong with, or not strong, but it has synergy with Echo, which is the 1/4 blue creature with vigilance that for 1 mana can copy triggered abilities of creatures or abilities of creatures. So it's just an ability of a creature, like I've had it in my deck with Echo, and it's kind of like a small thing. Again, it's probably not a card that you're ever going to be like, oh, I really need this. Or like I'm trying to say the Captain Marvel, it's like never like you're like, this is exactly what my deck needs. But yeah, it doesn't seem too embarrassing in any of the decks. Is it a villain? Let me just check that really quick, because that would change a little bit of its value. No, it's a hero. So yeah, I mean, like I guess what I'm trying to say is this kind of reminds me a little bit of the Captain Marvel card, where it's like I don't feel like your deck's ever really explicitly looking for this effect. Maybe if you have a lot of keywords like lifelink and whatever. But yeah, so I guess I should probably just keep going so I don't talk too long about this card. Yeah. So yeah, where would I want to take it? That's tough. I mean, like if I had to compare it to Seal Away, for example, I honestly don't know which one's better. I think Seal Away might be better. I think they're both pretty mediocre. Like I kind of honestly might want to take it kind of late, like pick 5, pick 6 plus, but I might be underrating it. I tend to underrate more aggressive cards. maybe it'll overperform because, anyway, I was going to say because just like the pass, like the ability, the activation costs, like it might make it hard to block, whatever, give you late game, whatever. Anyway, I'm going to try and go to the next card. So White Widow, free agent. Oh yeah, did I say what I would take it at? Yeah, like I feel like I want to say like pick 6+. I guess I don't want to double guess my own guesses just to like hedge being right, quote unquote. So yeah, I do feel like Patriot Shield Wielder, like, and probably would take Lightning Strike above it. I'd probably take Oblivion Ring above it, but yeah, right now. Obviously, it can be wrong, and yeah. So next card, White Widow, free agent. Yeah, this card doesn't seem too strong. Oh, and that's the 4-mana 2/3 that can put counters on 2 creatures or return an artifact or enchantment. Like, I feel like this is a card where, later on in the draft, like earlier on in the draft, I don't think this card's that abstractly powerful. Later on in the draft, if you end up with some good artifacts and enchantments to return, maybe it'll, go up in value slightly there. But it's not like that mode's insane. It's more like it's just nice to have. Because a 4-mana 2/3 that returns something is like obviously not that, insane of a card. It's just like fine. Um, Obviously, and the counters mode, like fine, I guess. I mean, if you're in white green and you have a lot of things that care about counters, that I could see, uh, prioritizing it a bit more highly if I'm in a white green deck. It also, I guess, has synergy with Flicker. There is a small blue-white Flicker theme. A few blue cards, yeah, care about flickering. The ability obviously is nice with a few of the cards I mentioned before, Loki and Echo. Like copying this with Echo is pretty nice. So I could see, if I have those cards, I might be taking a bit higher. But early on, I'd probably want to take it maybe lower than even Seal Away and Patriot Shield Wielder, like kind of pick 6, 7+. That's my feeling on this card. Okay, the next card, Agent Maria Hill. This is a tough one. It's the 1-mana 2/1 that when you do teamwork, you can put a counter on it and draw a card. So I did search up all the teamwork cards in the set, and there isn't too many. But specifically, I could imagine this being kind of oppressive with the blue counter spell that has teamwork, because you can play it turn 1, turn 2, you can just teamwork the counter spell and draw a card. And if you have a second one, the game's almost over. That's probably going to feel pretty broken. Like you almost feel like you lose the game on turn 2. I guess that's worth keeping in mind. If you play against this card and they just pass with the 2/1 and they don't attack and that blue mana up, and it's turn 2, then you might, there's a pretty good chance they might have the counter spell. The only reason they wouldn't is maybe if you had white mana up and they're scared you had the destroy an attacking creature card. So yeah, this card's interesting to evaluate because it reads like really powerful. Like it's a 1-mana card that can take over the game, but there's not that many teamwork cards, so it's kind of balanced in that respect. There's only one, well, there's 2 in white. There's the one I just mentioned, which is the 1 white, deal damage to an attacking or blocking creature. So that's your 1, and then the second one is Murdoch's Crusade, which is the exile power, exile toughness 4 or greater, exile enchantment of CMC 4 or greater. Part of the problem is Murdoch's Crusade is that it's kind of hard to teamwork it. Like there aren't, like most of the time, there's not going to be a target for both modes, and pretty sure you can't teamwork it. So it's not like it's like, that reliable. But obviously, technically, it will come up and it'll be like an insane blowout when it does. Then when you get to red, there's not too many, but there is Hulk Smash, which is the red bite. It's not inconceivable. You end up with 2 to 3 of those. And I'm trying to figure out if it's like this thing where you actually have to pick both modes, or like both needs targets. Yeah, so Hulk Smash might be kind of hard to enable too. I think it's easier to get a Hulk Smash target than it is to get the Crusade. Like they just need to have a non-creature artifact in play. Yeah, and there's I guess there's Team Tactics too, which is kind of the Teamer Battle Rage variant. But obviously that's an uncommon, so it's not always the most reliable. Like it's not like the counter spell where you can just cleanly play it on turn 2. Blue has the counter spell, like I mentioned. Black has a good amount. Well, it just has 2 two common removal spells that you can teamwork it with. So if you end up with the Widow's Bite, which is the 2 mana, -2/-2, that can also give Death Touch. It's Teamwork 3, so you'll need another creature in play, but it's a common. And then there's Cruel Alliance, which works really well with it. It's like the 3 mana exile something, and with Teamwork 2 on it. So very easy to enable, very good card. Then there's like the weird uncommon that returns stuff that I don't know how much you'll play beyond the scope of this episode. And I guess red also has Repulsor Blast too, which is a pretty good way to enable it because that's, yeah, just Teamwork 2. It's the 4 mana deal 5 damage and it's Teamwork 2. There's a Mythic Rare, I guess, or some Mightiest Heroes, but that's probably not the most relevant synergy in the world. That's the 6 mana card that puts like a bunch of creatures in play from the top of your deck. And there's the blue common that's 7 mana. But obviously, casting a 7 mana card with your 1-drop is kind of tough. But I could imagine, you maybe play 1 or 2 of these, and if you have 2 Maria Hills, it'll make them a lot better, or of a 7-drop. So yeah, just pull up the cards again. Okay, so yeah, Maria Hill. I think it's pretty hard to evaluate because, as I said, a 1 mana card that can take over the game is like very powerful, but it's not necessarily that easy to enable. Green also has the fight spell too. So I guess, yeah, like there's a decent amount of stuff out there. Like if you're in blue, you can try and get the counter spell. If you're in black, there's some removal spells you can get. If you're red, there's the Repulsor Blast. So I'm really not sure. I would say I feel like around pick 4, maybe. I feel like around pick 4, pick 5 is maybe where you'd want to take her early on in the draft. Obviously, if you have a lot of teamwork cards already, then she could become quite a high pick. But it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. It's not always going to make your deck. It does take effort, and it's not that easy to get that many teamwork cards, I feel like. So the next card is Quake, Agent of Shield. That's the 3 mana 3/3 that when you cast non-creature spells, you can tap a creature or a land. So already looks kind of confusing at the start because people might be like, "Wow, tapping a land, not an ability that gets put on cards very often." Yeah, this is a card that I wasn't valuing too highly. Like I wasn't picking very highly because I didn't feel like it was what the format was about. But I guess here's a time to think about it more formally. So it seems like a card that naturally you'd want in more aggressive decks because you can tap their blockers. Obviously, in a defensive deck, you can tap your opponent's attackers, but that's kind of, hard to set up. You need to pass as an instant. It's a one-time effect, whatever. It's also a hero in play, I guess. It's a card where its value is kind of nebulous because the ability of tapping a creature is like a nebulous value. There are a small few things worth noting. Like it can be powerful again with Loki. Loki again, it's the baby Nadu, which I'll probably mention a lot because it is a card you want to turn on. So I think of a more eloquent way to put it, but if you have Loki, you will want reliable ways to turn on the ability. So I guess it's the way that does it. It also, again, has synergy with the aforementioned Echo, which is the 1/4 that copies abilities, because then at least you get a double tap out of it. It is a hero, I guess, for white-green. It's trying to think. There's that much to say. I don't know. It just doesn't seem that strong to me, but it's the kind of card that can be very powerful in the right game. But a lot of the time, it's just going to be a 3 mana 3/3. Again, in a format where I feel like it's more about sticking single powerful legend rather than racing in combat, which is what this card's kind of playing towards. So, yeah, I feel like I would almost want to pick this pick 8+, pick 9+, pretty late. I don't feel like a lot of decks are going to want this. That's just the feeling I have when I look at the card and I think about the different decks. I guess technically white red's the prowess deck, so maybe it can tap a lot of stuff. Maybe, but we'll see. You're still paying 3 mana for a 3/3, so it's hard to imagine. Anyway, so I'll move on to the next card, Colleen Wing, Samurai. This card reads as pretty strong to me, but its ability is not obvious how to trigger it. So it's a 2 mana 2/2 that when you cast a spell that targets a creature you control, you put a counter on her and scry one. I actually did open up what most of the targeted stuff is. Let me just find it really quick. Da, da, da. So ways that you have to target this. There's the Panther Bounce, which is the 1 mana give flying. There is Take Up the Shield, which is a 2 mana combat trick. Technically, you could depower her, which is the blue -4 power card. There is Iron Man, which is the 3 mana, make something a 4/5. There is Pim Particles, which is the one blue thing. So blue has like a few ways, but they're all kind of a little bit finicky. There's also the Connive, I guess. The Trickster Stratagem, pretty good with that. So, blue has some ways. In black, let me see, scrolling through in black. I think there's almost no ways in just mono black that I can see. In red, there's the Hulk Smash, which is the red bite. There's Blazing Crescendo. There is Blazing Crescendos, which is like a pump spell that can draw a card sometimes. Um, Technically, you could trigger it with the Photon Blast, which is the red X, deal 1 damage X times. Let me see what else. There's the Teamer Battle Rage, I guess, but that card's kind of finicky. In green, yeah, green has a decent amount of ways because there's a few fight spells. I think Epic Fight, Go Nuts, which is Epic Fight's the 3 mana fight spell that doubles power and toughness. Go Nuts is the 1 mana fight spell that you can teamwork 3 to put a counter on something in addition. And there's also Punishing Punch, which is the 3 mana fight bite that doubles your creature's damage, and also costs you less if you have 2 or more creatures in the graveyard. There's the green ramp spell for 3 mana, but I don't know how often you're going to play that. And yeah, so I don't know. It seems powerful. There's also like some enchantments and stuff that are probably not coming up. Like any enchantment when this trigger targets this, you can draw a card. So it goes pretty hard with the +2/+2 first strike and vigilance card. Obviously, it's pretty all in, but it instantly makes it into a 5/5 vigilance, and so on. So I don't know. When would I pick this? I mean, intuitively, like if I just read this card generally, I would probably take it pretty high. Like this card reads like a 2 mana card that can win the game by itself. So it's like a card that you want to take around pick 3. Though I don't know how easily supported it will be, as you do need some, put in some work to get value out of it. Like you'd probably want a decent amount of ways to trigger it. I don't know how trivial that is to get. Specifically, if you're in black, it might be kind of hard because I don't think like any of the equipment will really, work on it. Like I could see it playing some black-white decks where you have almost no ways to trigger it. It's kind of a similar space to Miss Maisel, which Miss Maisel has the same text as this, but draws a card instead for 3 mana, which again is like very powerful, but it's not obvious how easy it is to enable. So to summarize her, I think I would take her kind of highly to start the format off. Maybe around pick 4-ish is when I'd be happy, pick 4, pick 5. But I'm not sure how well supported she is, and I could see in specifically white-black, maybe it'll be hard to support her. Then the next card is Mockingbird Ace Agent. This has the exact same thing. It's a 4-mana 2/2 double strike that gets counters when you target it with spells. And you have to target creatures you control. So all the same things apply, but some of the more mediocre stuff can be more powerful, but it's also more all-in. For example, the Iron Man card. That's a 3-mana blue spell that turns everything into a 4/5 flyer and cantrips. If you just play a couple Iron Mans, it can be 20 damage because it makes it into a 10 power flyer, and then next turn 12 power flyer. But obviously, that can be kind of a finicky combo because you're paying a 4-mana 2/2 that might not untap, but it is a powerful thing technically to be aware of. Like it's more of a push. This card's more of a push to play the Iron Man card than Colleen Wang because she just gets a single counter, whereas this gets the counter and the double strike. Yeah, all the same things kind of apply, but obviously this card's a bit more of a push, but also dies to removal more easily. Like if you Blazing Crescendo this, it's more damage, and so on. So yeah, it's kind of a card I'd probably pick a bit less highly. Like I'm almost thinking like pick 7+, Maybe if I'm in a deck where she's kind of well supported, I would go up a bit on her. I drafted a blue-white deck a few days ago where I couldn't really play her because I just didn't have enough ways to target it, and it didn't really fit into what my deck was trying to do. Um, so yeah, I guess not starting out too high on this card, but it has potential if you build around it. Maybe white red's a better home for it because white red might want a lot of combat tricks and that kind of stuff. The next card is Okoye Dora Leader. So that's the 4-mana 3/2 that when it enters makes 2 soldiers, and it also gives tokens, attacking tokens you control for a strike. This is a card that read pretty poorly to me, but I've noticed some synergies that where it can be nice with. For example, Echo that I mentioned a few times. It's a 1/4 that copies triggered abilities. Making 4 1/1s is a lot better than 2 1/1s. The Fisk party thing in the beginning that I was talking about, which was the 1-mana whenever a creature enters, it has a trigger and puts counters. Obviously, it's quite strong with that, as it almost instantly triggers it and makes a bunch of bodies to put counters on. Trying to think of like what else to say about this card. When would I take it though? I feel like probably maybe lower than Sealed Away, like pick 7 plus maybe. But yeah, if I have like a bunch of cards that have synergy with it, I might be a little bit higher on it later on. Kind of the cards I mentioned. Um, Next card is kind of a hard one to evaluate. It's the Night Nurse. It's a 2/1 lifelink flash that when it enters, you can return a permanent from your graveyard. Let's put that as turn to your hand. I mean, this is the kind of card that like reads really powerful, but can be kind of hard to get value from. Its floor is not too bad. I mean, it's a 2-mana 2/1 lifelink with flash. So at the base, it's like not that bad, but also that's not exactly a card that's going to win a game by itself, right? Like, it's kind of like recycling land. Okay, I'm not going to go too deep into that, but yeah. So its ability is kind of weird because it's like, okay, you can play early on in the game and later in the game it can return stuff, but it can be kind of finicky trying to return stuff. Places I can see getting extra value is when the lifelink is more value. If you have equipments, if you have basically ways to buff it, it can be kind of nice with that. I can see it being nice again with Echo, which I've mentioned many times, but copying the trigger with Echo, this is one of the more powerful triggers to copy. Obviously, it's a little bit of work to set it up, but you can imagine if you do set it up, it is pretty powerful. How high would I take it though? I feel like when I look at this card, like the thing is, it's powerful. It looks like there's nothing really wrong with it because it's kind of cheap with 2/1 lifelink as utility late game. But part of the problem is I feel like it can be pretty important to get on bird early in a meaningful way. So I'm kind of saying that 2/1 lifelink's not that meaningful in a lot of games when the game's going to be like who can untap with their Dark Confidant kind of effect. And the late game utility can be finicky to set up. So like I think I would take this below Oblivion Ring. I think I might even take Lightning Strike above this. Or like a lot of generic strong removal spells, I would probably take above this. I probably want to take this like pick 6, pick 7. Like maybe I would take this higher than Seal Away. Maybe I would take this higher. So maybe I would take this like pick 5, pick 6, like pick 5.5, pick 6. I feel like, and cards that would make me more into it. Yeah, like if I have Echo, I'm not sure how real the pump stuff is, but technically it is good with buffs and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I guess there's a funny combo. I guess it is a pretty good combo, actually, so it is worth being aware of, was the Surveil land in this, because there's so many permanents in the set, but like most of the time you are going to surveil like a permanent, and then you can just play this on turn 2. So actually that makes me a little bit higher on this, because it's probably not that hard to get a couple of the Surveil land, and then there's also the Land Cycler. I mean, the white Land Cycler, maybe it's is not a permanent, but if you have any of the other Land Cyclers, you can just get that back pretty easily. So yeah, maybe I'd move it a bit more to like pick 5, pick 5.5, just because that's the synergy with the Surveil land seems kind of nice. Where you can just run this out on turn 2 as a 2/1 that says draw a card. And I'm talking, yeah, so you surveil the card in the graveyard and trigger this. So yeah, that's what I would say for around that. But yeah, it's hard. So I was trying to say it's hard to think like the two metrics I'm kind of looking at are like how high do I want to take it early on in the draft, and what are the decks where I'm like really looking for it. And I was trying to say like I don't know if there's any decks I'm really looking for it. But yeah, anyway, next card, Red Guardian. Super Soldier. I guess it's also kind of okay with the flicker theme in blue-white, but again, it can be kind of finicky to enable that because you have to somehow have a permanent return and have the flicker effect at the same time. Anyway, so Red Guardian, Super Soldier. This is the 3-mana 2/2 flash that when it enters, destroys a creature an opponent controls that dealt damage this turn. I mean, probably one of the main things you want to know about this card is regarding to playing around it. Like, there was a situation where my opponent attacked with a 1/1 into me, and I was like extremely unsure what they had. So I just blocked out of curiosity, and they played this, and it was like a big blowout for me. So just keep that in mind, I guess. Playing around this card. Yeah, it's kind of a card that like Seal Away, you can't really say anything bad about. Like, it's often going to kill a creature and leave behind a 2/2. The only problems with this card is it's not that good at removing creatures with triggered abilities or passive abilities, like Dark Confidant kind of effects. So that's why I probably, pick this around where I would take Seal Away. Things that make it better. Like Echo, I guess I keep mentioning. I mean, it is worth mentioning because Echo is a card that, like, if you can copy multiple things in a game, can be powerful, can win the game by itself, but it's not trivial to turn on. So it is worth mentioning these abilities. It's like, it is worth mentioning that, I guess. Let me see, what else? What else with this card? It's a villain. Yeah, so I don't know. I would probably take it around Seal Away. I think it might be a little bit better than Seal Away, especially if you have cantrips that find permanence. And it's worth being aware of as a combat trick. And yeah, I'm trying to think if there's something intelligent to say, but I don't really have anything intelligent to say, so I'll just move on to the next card. Invisible Woman Storm. That's quite a bizarre card. It's the 5-mana 2/5 lifelink that when you put a counter on one or more. Wait. Does this not trigger on itself? Okay, so whenever you put one or more counters on one or more other heroes you control, you may create an 0/4 wall. So I assumed that this triggered on itself, and I already thought it was like pretty questionable. But what I'm understanding is you need to have another hero in play. I'm just reading this. Maybe I should have done this before. Whenever you put one or more. Okay, because I was going to say that, like, this card reads like very curious because it's a 5-mana card that doesn't really have a very strong impact on the game by itself. Like, obviously you need to get the counters to make this do anything. So now you got the counters, let's say, and what do you get? 0/4 walls? Very, like, dubious value. Like, if an 0/4 wall, like, how much is that worth? It's pretty dubious, but it's not nothing. I was going to comment that, like, one of the cards this works kind of nicely with is the 4-mana Green Enchantment Training Regimen that puts counters on creatures every turn, because you could obviously curve that into this, and they play nicely with each other because obviously Training Regiment's slow, so then the blockers get value. Training Regimen gives you inevitability, yada yada. This is lifelink to put the counters on. It just works quite well. And these are two cards that are, like, not that good by themselves maybe, but they work well together. Obviously all the power-up stuff gets counters. Obviously here in green it'll be easier to get counters, but it's like, yeah, if you're playing a 5-mana card, you kind of want to be paid up front. It's like, okay, if you're not paid up front, what am I getting out of it? It's like, well, if you get counters, you get walls. I mean, I guess one of the upsides with this card is lifelink, so if you buff it, you get the extra keyword. I don't know, maybe I would take it like pick 9+. I mean, it might overperform expectations. Like, there are certain situations that can be strong. If you have sack outlets to throw the walls around, maybe the walls are better than I think. They're obviously not, worthless. Like I described that situation with Training Regimen. I think that is pretty powerful. That's a combination that, if your opponent doesn't have removal, can win the game by itself. But yeah, I'm a little bit confused with this card. I mean, yeah, look at the data, and I guess my first impression is like pick 9+ is kind of what I'd be looking at. And next card is another confusing card a little bit, but I've got higher on it. It's Luke Cage. It's the 2/5 that when it attacks alone, it gets +2 power and indestructible. This card, like, seems really weak to me, but kind of tying into what I've mentioned earlier about creatures being smaller, presumably, assuming the power up doesn't fix that. This card can be, kind of hard to block in the format because the creatures are kind of small. And then, like, the indestructible, while it seems like kind of memey, It just means they can't block it. Like usually if you attack with a 4/5, there's a lot of good blocks. They could block with Death Touchers, they could double block it. So as weird as it is, I think like it's not as bad as it's as it sounds. Where would I pick it though? Like I feel like pick 7, 6+. Like I mean, technically this card can win the game by itself, but in a very like boring, like slow, not that powerful way. It's very slow by itself. So yeah, I'm kind of feeling like pick 7+. I've had it be strong against me. I was surprised because the card read badly, but it is like it does kind of put a clock on your opponent. It is kind of hard to block. But yeah, it is just slow against other threats and stuff like that. So that's my feeling. Pick 7+. Um, I don't know if it's like has that much synergy with like the exalted stuff. I mean, I guess it does because it says that that's presumably where you'd want it. Um, it seems kind of like an aggressive card. So like red white, I could see wanting it just because it hits hard. Um, I guess in blue white, it's kind of nice. You can give it vigilance with the vigilance stuff. That's like not that powerful of a combo, but I can see that coming up. It's a hero in white green, I guess. I don't know. It's like seems playable in most of the decks. But it's hard to imagine like being like, yeah, where do I really want this card? Um, that doesn't seem like something that's going to happen too much. Kind of like the Sarah Adventure or whatever. Now, the next card is a card that I like a lot. It's Sharon Carter, Agent 13, the White Tireless Tracker, 3/2, and whenever you attack alone, investigate. Yeah, I've picked her a lot so far, and she's been pretty good. Definitely a card that can win the game by itself. Definitely a card that can like leave behind value before she dies. I think it's probably good in like every deck. Obviously, maybe it fits better in some than others, but it doesn't even take any effort to build around because you can just put her in your deck, and often she can trigger. She doesn't need any work. Obviously, it makes having 2 mana creatures better, 1 mana creatures, so you can instantly get the trigger. But yeah, not too much to say. It's just a great card. Where would I pick her? I feel like around pick 3 is good. It's like where I'd be happy to like. I wouldn't hate picking her pick 2. Like what I guess one metric I also use is like would I take it over every common? I think I would probably, but I think I would, but my confidence level is like not that high if that's the right pick. But yeah, you see strong. I mean, she's exactly what I'm talking about. A strong legend that when you went top with her, can take over the game, and she can even get value right away. Obviously, the clues are like kind of slow, but what are you going to do? Call Tireless Tracker bad? So yeah, and that's all the uncommons. So I guess I'll stop there for now. But yeah, that's kind of the metric the rubric I'm going to be trying to use. Is I'm going to say like how high would I want to pick this early, and where are the decks that I would really want this card in that it could shine, and also like kind of tying into that like how versatile is that? Like if I do pick this early, what are the decks that I won't be able to use it in? Stuff like that. Yeah.